Talking of failed projects, this is what also IGA has drawn for us inside the Daily Nation today. Maybe we can actually piggyback on the success of the failed projects to make it a tourist attraction, right? So this is actually in the Daily Nation today. Well, talking of failed projects, maybe we can also pick up what is on the front page of the Daily Nation. Just a moment. We have ministry stops laptop. This is a sidebar story there. Projects will now build computers labs. And it says the Ministry of Education has suspended the issuance of tablets to Standard 1 pupils under its digital literacy program, opting to build computer laboratories instead. Principal Secretary Bello Kipsang says that under the new policy, each of the 25,000 primary schools will get one computer laboratory. However, members of the parliament are wondering why the government is changing its much hyped digital literacy program and what happens to the billions of shillings already spent procuring and laying the technical groundwork for the tablets. These are the consultants, the negotiators. Now we are back. So this can be a tourist attraction as well.
Yes.
Dr. Shemocho.
It's so saddening. Indeed, without downplaying the role tourism is doing for this country, I'm glad. I think last year we hit about the $1 billion mark in terms of revenues from tourism. So yes, if we can get more tourist sites, but of course
to diversify our tourist portfolio, it's always been the big five.
But it would be very sad that of course failed projects become part of our DNA. This shouldn't be a laughable matter, Debal. While working in Rwanda, I was part of the team that successfully rolled out the one laptop per child program. And for me, when there was the talk of the laptop project in Kenya, I was very happy because I think it was a very good project, contrary to public perception. But again, and I think for the lack of repeating myself for the nth time, complex projects like that you cannot implement without due systems engineering. Systems engineering would allow you to look at all the bases and cover them. Say, how are we going to get power? How are we going to deal with loss of the laptops or tablets? How are we going to deal with dust and children carrying this stuff home? Where are we going to get the trainers? Are they prepared? There are and a whole lot array of things that experts would look into to make sure that the project is viable. I feel so bad when now it's being said that we're going to build laboratories. It's another knee-jerk action. To what benefit? Is that the only problem? Have we talked to professionals? And I can talk with authority in this regard, given that more recently, I think about 3 months ago, the Informatician Society of Kenya is registered. The ICT experts, the real ones, now have a profession. But nobody talks to them, inquires, asks their views. I do know within the platform that we have for the ICT professionals, we call them informaticians, there's a raging debate about this NIMS project. I can say on national TV without fear of contradiction, it's being pushed on Kenyans' throats, but I want to forewarn that's going to fail, like every other. Because again, in Rwanda, we did a project which tried to bring a number of things together, the driving license, the ID, and so on. It's doable. Estonia has done it. But there is the systems engineering that must go with it. It's not just something you start today, you're doing a project of NIMS, spending, I don't know whether it's 6 billion or how much money to be spent. What became of, for example, IPRS? IPRS, the Integrated Population Registry System.
It's never been implemented.
No, it's there. It's actually there.
But it's never been implemented. Why would we need NIMS if we have the IPRS?
Actually, we have the PIN, we have the ID numbers, we have the NSSF, and we have NHIF. We have many driving licenses, we have passports, and
birth certificates. And
even worse, we're now talking of doing the national census. I don't know how much money we're going to spend. It is 60 billion. And we're doing it in parallel to these names that we are pushing down along Kenyans. I want to sympathize with Excellency the President. He's getting wrong advice. And I think it's time that we stepped back. In fact, if we had a choice, I want to encourage the leadership to do something that has never happened. Could we even advertise these positions? Ordinarily, I know it's a prerogative of the executive to appoint PSS, CSS.
Right. But let's focus on the billions that have been lost so far.
Right.
In terms of trying to push out for the laptop project, now it is computer laboratory as well.
I'm saying this because if we do things wrong, for this particular sector, when you have a complex issue like the laptop project or the names, please make sure you do it right. Rely on professionals. Don't rely on what political or people vested interest tell you.
Yeah,
Because otherwise you lose.
So what happens to
public
the
funds.
laptops that were actually given out on the pilot during the pilot phase?
It's a tragedy because, when you promise children, young children, something, and you are speaking as head of state, you come to Nyamira on a campaign and the children are there and you tell them, I'm going to give all of you laptops. And they go home believing that for sure you're going to give them laptops, and you don't. Then you are waking up one day and you want to tell the children, now I'm coming to build for you computer labs. Now, what kind of children are we going to raise if we leaders can just come and tell them things we don't believe in? And a few years down the line, you are coming up and saying this is a failed project. I think we are in the state where there was in Europe, there was a country that was known as the sick man of Europe, Turkey. Look at go to our infrastructure. When the Ethiopians are putting up a railway that is supported by electricity, here we are pulling diesel engines. When Rwanda here is building a hub that will be better than Kenya, I mean what we have here at Jomo Kenyatta.
By Kenyans.
By Kenyans, our own Kenyans. Here we give money to Kenya Airports Authority, but what you have is nothing compared to what is coming up in Rwanda. When you come to Golana, look at it. You tell Kenyans that you're going to come up with a project for food security for this country.
Yes.
And then you have sunk 7 billion shillings, and there is nothing to show for it, nothing at all. You promise school children that you're going to roll out free primary and secondary education. And here you have parents struggling who can't afford fees for their children. I think that cartoon is spot on.
Right.
It is spot on. What we are doing in Kenya is a comedy. I think it can be a very good is a very good tourist attraction. Is a script. Right. I think we should actually be a case study on failed projects. I don't think there is a country that does business the way we do it. Dibal, we promised that we will give infrastructure money to our schools, primary and secondary. So far, we have only disbursed 5.2 billion. And if you go to most counties, they have never seen this money. Now, if you have not even done the normal infrastructure, classrooms for children, where are you going to get money to build computer labs?
Interesting.
I mean,
could I add more
really
as you're winding up? Could I add more
Yes.
so that at least we can
Yes.
be wind them and comment on it as well?
Yes.
Also, yesterday in the Daily Nation, this was page 10, that the Ministry on the spot over plans to import aging Spanish trains.
look at that.
Right? And he's saying Kenya is planning to import 11 used diesel trains from Spain, with some as old as 25 years, in the 10 billion shillings plan for a commuter train service and the high-capacity buses in Nairobi. The Sunday Nation can reveal the reconditioned diesel multi-units, DMUs, are expected to arrive in the country anytime from June this year in a rush plan that raises suspicions on just how they are going to operate, given findings of a report that questions their low capacity, weaker engines, and in Nairobi's single-track railway system.
Dibal, let me tell you, I completely agree with what my colleagues have said. Number one, we need to figure out how we can actually have Kenya marketed as a country where other countries in Africa can come for benchmarking to see failed projects and white elephant projects which exist. And the only thing we need to fine tune is the billions of shillings and indeed billions of dollars that we have spent to do this. Number one, from the start, I believe that the laptop project was schemed, it was clearly organized, it was strategically set up as an outfit to scheme and scam the Kenyan public. It had nothing to do with going down to the grassroots and making sure that children are given the laptops so that they would be computer savvy and everything. The reason is very simple. Some of the schools that we were piloting to give these computers didn't even have power. We had not even provided solar energy kits to run these outfits. The teachers have not been trained.
I thought the last mile project actually,
But
reached
up
the
to
last
now,
primary school.
the last mile outfit has not even done as much as the government has really. They've tried to push some of these projects for electricity, but it had not reached some of the interior areas. Number two, in the 10th Parliament, we actually raised this issue about why. We asked the minister then, and it was Honorable Matiang'i, we asked him, why are you insisting that we give laptops to school kids who are going to carry them home, or who are going to keep these laptops in schools where there isn't enough security and all that? And we said, let us have a computer lab which is set within the school and have a structure which is much cheaper, so that these children can actually then, even if they're in standard 1, it was much easier for us to convert a classroom and make sure that these children can actually have a class which has got these laptops, which are maintained and kept within the school. Nobody listened to that. Now the story is some of these laptops are found in South Sudan, some of them are found in Congo, and basically after that we've gone through 19 billion shillings, and that's the end of it. Somebody somewhere said this, Dibal, complex projects need practical solutions. Very complex. You don't have to look, you don't have to deal with a complex problem and come with complex solutions, because then you create a much more complex problem at the end of it all. What we have always said is this: Kenya needs to deal with very basic issues. Look at this railway thing you're talking about, old trains coming from
Spain.
From Spain. These old trains are going to use diesel. Chances are somebody has already struck a deal where they're going to be the ones supplying the diesel to the trains. All right, what my brother Okongo Mogeni has said, Ethiopia has done a railway line which uses electricity, which has got double the speed of what we've got with SGR at half the price of which we have got our SGR. All right, look at where we are right now with SGR. We are unable to pay for it. All right, when you are interrogating these issues, then the issue comes up and you are like, you know what, leave that alone. I think we are managing somehow as we are plodding along. In fact, when you go deep down into some of the projects, like Mheshimiwa Semochuda saying, the IPRS, the issue of NIMS and all that, Kenya is the only country where the government takes a decision, something is being implemented, and it comes out of nowhere, and you realize, poop, let's move on it. Even Parliament itself, which is supposed to be the third arm of government, we have not interrogated what this actually means.
Thank you.
The Kenya Human Rights Commission has come up and said, we want you to stop this implementation because we have outstanding constitutional issues.
Thank you.
Nobody wants to listen.
Thank you.
Now the question then comes, has somebody set up this because he's the one who's supplying the BVR kits, he's the one who is again taking money, and he's the one who's going to roll out this thing at 60 billion?
That's the question.
Let's just ask ourselves.
As your headline thoughts as well. Your headline thoughts, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, briefly.
As we ask ourselves, are we serious about fighting corruption? If somebody was involved in the laptop project, that person comes up with an idea of another thing called the lab. Straight away, you should begin to exclude some people from any new projects. I mean, if somebody has already misled the country, and then all of a sudden you're giving them another idea, and they're giving you another idea, what is the chances that they're not going to mislead you? So that's one. Number two, and of course, two things happened to me last week. One is Morgan is here. I was re-elected to be chair again of the Senate Committee on Delegated Legislation. But secondly, I also just traveled from Zambia to receive a honorary doctorate degree. But what does happen, Dibali, is that members of parliament, including myself, have opportunities and have been trained. All members of parliament have degrees, mostly, except those who look like they have degrees, and who can behave like they have degrees. If we cannot begin to interrogate these things properly and remove people who have already been involved, because these things happen at the budget.
Thank you.
We have said that before.
Yes.
And members of parliament have this training that they have. A lot of training. Let's look at our budget. People target the budget.
And that's where the money is
that they begin
allocated.
to exude.
Thank you.
To get money from those areas.
I'm supposed to be out. I'm really under the gun. I can't give you that opportunity to wind up. It's 8 on the nose. I think we'll leave it with Mheshimiwa Pugisio. Right, you can hold your thoughts for next week. This is still developing stories as well. Thank you so much, Dr. Shemochuodo. Also, thank you so much, Senator Kongo Mogeni and Richard Onyonka, thank you for coming through as well, and Samuel Pogisu as well. We need to wind up on this note, and of course to think deeply about what also IGA has done for us. We'll leave you with this particular editorial cartoon. Just think about it. Is this maybe expanding our tourist portfolio? How about turning this into a tourist site and then revenue, right? This is a laptop which is turning into a computer laboratory. Ulana Galano has not really worked so far. Are we still waiting for another shoe to drop? Well, think about it.